Hello, my name is Eric Hansen. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to share a few thoughts today about Martin Luther King Jr. and my very valuable journey of discovery, learning about him and his life. I grew up uh, being told, being taught about the importance of the civil rights movement and King. I loved reading his work and learning about him because it closely aligned with my interests: pacifism, nonviolence, social justice, racial justice, spirituality, and American religion. And in a few recent years, I took a couple of really interesting turns, and I want to talk about that with you today. It didn't take me too long in learning about King and his biography and who he was to, of course, read about his death, 1968, April 4th. And I want you to just stop. You can stop the video if you want and just pick your brain for a second and say, what do I know about his death? Go ahead. Myself, I was very surprised because I had heard nary a peep about this in all my days, going to Martin Luther King Day marches, etc., etc. Nary a peep about the 1999 King family versus Lloyd Jowers civil trial, wherein a jury of 12 decided in under an hour that there was a conspiracy to kill Martin Luther King. It involved a guy, an ex-Memphis police officer, um, Lloyd Jowers. He retired and became a businessman and owned a restaurant that was across the alleyway from the Lorraine Motel where King was killed. Now you learn about this case, immediately I was very intrigued. And you come across the statement of King's wife, Coretta Scott, immediately after the announcement of the verdict. She made this quote, and I'm going to read it to you. Please stick with me. I'm going to use my best reading voice here. She said, quote, "There is abundant evidence of a major high-level conspiracy in the assassination of my husband, Martin Luther King Jr., and the civil court's unanimous verdict has validated our belief. I wholeheartedly applaud the verdict of the jury, and I feel that justice has been well served in their deliberations. This verdict is not only a great victory for my family, but also a great victory for America." Skip a little. The jury was clearly convinced by an extensive evidence that was presented during the trial that, in addition to Mr. Jowers, the conspiracy of the mafia, local, state, and federal government agencies were deeply involved in the assassination of my husband. The jury also affirmed overwhelming evidence that identified someone else, not James Earl Ray, as the shooter, and that Mr. Ray was set up to take the blame. She continued on from there. I believe that's the most interesting portion there, perhaps. You can find it for yourself. It's available all online, as are the transcripts of the trial itself. So I hope your interest is piqued. I started reading on this subject, and I picked up a book by civil rights activist and comedian Dick Gregory and Mark Lane, who has also worked on JFK event in Dallas. Their book, published in 1977, Murder in Memphis, The FBI and the assassination of Martin Luther King. Sorry, that's backwards now. You'll have to hold it up to a mirror. Again, as the subtitle suggests, it's largely about the FBI's involvement and role in the killing of King. 1995, a book was published by the King family lawyer, William F. Pepper. He worked closely with, collaborated with the King family. He represented the family in the civil trial. He also represented the case on two televised trials. One was through HBO, and the other one was, I believe, through an English broadcasting company. His first book was Orders to Kill. It's a highly detailed book, wonderful pictures, very valuable, shocking information in here. And then in 2016, he kind of created his magnum opus using some of the information from his earlier books, and that's called The Plot to Kill King. In it, he has many transcriptions of kind of certified, witnessed conversations with witnesses. He includes a lot of the information from the trial itself, quotes from witnesses under oath in the trial. And for your enjoyment, I distilled this book. It's just over 600 pages so of the information before the appendices. I distilled this into just about 20-some interesting little nuggets for you. So I hope you enjoy. In Memphis, at the time of the killing, there was an 8-man sniper team. They were called the Alpha 184 team. Pepper himself in the book details how he finds strong indication that the FBI and specifically J. Edgar Hoover were involved in the planning and execution of the event. As I said, in the civil trial in 1999, in under an hour, a jury of 12 found Jowers guilty, along with U.S. government, the Tennessee, and the city of Memphis. Now, Betty Spates, who worked in Jim's Grill, the restaurant adjacent to the Lorraine, or across the alleyway, she said that she saw Lloyd Jowers bring in the rifle directly after the shot from the back door, and he stowed the rifle away. Jowers, on his deathbed, I guess legally that gives some more credibility to a person's statement. You know, if a person is in ill health at the end of their life or deathbed, their statements in these matters are weighted a little bit differently. He named a man named Frank Strouser as the assassin. A witness said that he saw a man coming down from the alley wall right across from the Lorraine. I hope this doesn't confuse you. The Lorraine Hotel with the balcony where King was shot, an alleyway, a little wall, a bunch of brush, heavy shrubbery, brush, and the back of businesses, including Jim's Grill. A man was seen coming down the alley wall. He ran up the street, jumped into a police cruiser, which drove away. Now, a taxi driver who saw this occur, made a statement to the police and was killed that same night. A separate taxi driver entered into the boarding house where James Earl Ray was said to have shot across the alley from a bathroom, and he saw the shooter's nest bathroom empty just minutes before the shot. You would think if you were going to be a sniper, hoping to shoot someone, you might be in position beforehand, getting ready without any, presumably you wouldn't have knowledge that Martin Luther King would step out onto the balcony almost exactly at 6 p.m. The King family worked close with Pepper, who wrote this book and compiled this stuff. So he has their approval. They worked with him during the trial, during the investigations. That included Coretta, Yolanda, the nephew Isaac Ferris, Dexter, Martin. The co-owner of the Lorraine Hotel, Lorraine Bailey, there's a little trivia for you. Lorraine Bailey, the co-owner of the hotel, when she heard about the shooting, she yelled either, "What have I done?" or "What have we done?" and had a brain hemorrhage, and she died a few days later. I hope you're still interested. I hope you're on the edge of your seats. An early book published in 1971 by Harold Weisberg noted issues about the event, including witness seeing someone in the bushes behind Jim's grill right after the shot. It was also notable that there was a last-minute change of hotel location to the Lorraine, and then once there, King's group, they placed King in room 306, second floor, with a balcony facing the alleyway. He also noted, as Dick Gregory and Mark Lane did, that the two black firemen in the fire station, right across the alleyway, there's a fire station right here, and two black firemen were removed under strange circumstances. I'll let you look at that yourself, as though to not be around or present or witness. Two witnesses saw Ray's car drive away before the shot rang out. Police units were pulled back prior to the shooting. So there had been kind of a close security net. I believe it was called the TAC-10 security units. Normal security would follow King in his travels. Anyway, they left right before the shooting. Of note is it is said that the shooter, James Earl Ray, the white guy with no motive, shoots King, comes down the street, not into the alleyway, towards the front of the building of the boarding house he was in, looks to his left, and he sees a police car by the fire station, panics, drops the bag with the gun in it and other incriminating evidence, and takes off. Well, at the time of the shooting, there was a hedge by that fire department that would have not made that possible. So shortly after the shooting, they cut that hedge down to make the story work. It's all about anachronisms, isn't it, sometimes? Devil's in the details and anachronisms. Journalist Steve Tompkins of Memphis's Commercial Appeal published an article in 1993 that a sniper team, Special Forces Alpha 184, was in Memphis the day of the shooting. He goes on to write in his article that the 90 Deuce military intelligence group was given the intelligence from Memphis police that friendlies are not wearing ties. Meaning there are infiltrators in the group of King, and they will not be wearing neckties. Those are our guys. Make sure they're not shot. Have fun for yourself looking at pictures from that day of who's wearing ties and who is not. Jesse Jackson. Merrill McCullough, in the famous picture you've probably all seen of people crouching on the balcony above King's body, and they're kind of pointing in the direction across the alleyway. The man hunkered right above King It looks as though one hand is on him, possibly. His name's Merrill McCullough. He was in the Army and military police. Then he went over to military intelligence as an informant in the 111th Military Intelligence Group. Do you think he was wearing a tie? Two men from the 525th Psychological Operations Battalion were on the fire station's roof taking pictures on the day of April 4th. Eric Galt is the name, an alias, used by James Earl Ray. This is discussed on page 136 of the book, if you're interested in looking this up. He happened to be a high-placed Canadian operative for U.S. intelligence. So James Earl Ray took the name Eric Galt right around the time that the real Galt met with an aide to Colonel John Downey of the 90 Deuce Military Intelligence Group. That's coincidental, perhaps. Or were they outfitting James Earl Ray with an alias of a protected intelligence asset to give him free rein, protection? Jowers later admitted to being in the bushes above the alleyway with the shooter. He admitted to bringing the smoking gun into the restaurant and hiding it. John McFerrin, a black civil rights leader at the time of the event, under oath in the civil trial, described hearing on the day of the shooting, just an hour before the shot rang out. So about 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the afternoon, a man named Frank Liberto, a businessman with mafia connections in the Marcello family, screaming into his phone, quote, "Shoot the son of the bitch on the balcony," end quote. Judge Joe Brown, yes, that Judge Joe Brown of reality TV, testified that he had no doubt that Ray's rifle found on the sidewalk was not the murder weapon. An FBI report confirmed that the scope had not been sighted. The FBI conducted an accuracy test on April 5th, finding that the rifle fired 3.5 inches to the left and 4 inches low. The 1999 trial, King family versus Jowers, the jury found 4 conclusions of note here. First, Jowers participated in a conspiracy to harm Dr. King. 2, others, including government agencies, were party to the conspiracy. 3, Lloyd Jowers had 30% liability. 4, co-conspirators, including state, federal, city agencies, and officials, bore 70% liability. I had not heard that in my public school education or any of my further education. Now, if you're familiar at all with this case, you'll know, James Earl Ray said that he was with a mysterious character named Raoul, who was kind of pulling the puppet strings. And who's Raoul? Oh, he's made up. So here's some notes about Raoul. A special operations soldier in the 90 Deuce Military Intelligence Group had been assigned to surveil black militants across the country. He would travel surveilling them. He was in a team in Memphis, armed with rifles. His target was Dr. King's friend Andrew Young. Andrew Young was a secondary target. This team was told to only fire when given radio confirmation to fire. They did not know about the shooter in the bushes. When they were quite surprised when they heard it. They thought there might be a separate team that went rogue, not hearing any radio confirmation to fire. This special ops soldier identified Raoul from photos. He identified him as a gun runner who shipped guns out of Camp Shelby to New Orleans as part of a way to get firearms into the mafia there, into New Orleans. An FBI agent named Donald Wilson found connections between Raoul H.L. Hunt of the JFK assassination and Jack Ruby, who is said to have shot Lee Harvey Oswald. A number of Jack Ruby's associates later confirmed seeing Ruby and Raoul together. They also said they saw Raoul at one time hand Ruby a bag full of cash. As told by journalist Barbara Reyes under oath, Raoul's wife in the 1990s described their family as being protected and advised by the U.S. government, and that the U.S. government monitored their phones as a way of helping and protecting them. A tape of Raoul's daughter was played in the civil trial where she is speaking after being shown a photograph of Raoul. This is a photograph that had been confirmed as being James Earl Ray's Raoul by Lloyd Jowers, James Earl Ray, and 3 others, and she confirmed, "This is my father." So not only is Raoul, this gun runner who had been hanging out with James Earl Ray, being kind of the puppet master, not only is he real, we know who he is and his family. So you can pick your job off the floor here. We're running long, and there's still a lot of ways to go here. Do I believe any of that? Now I don't. We are, myself and many others, are now living under a whole different rubric. We have a different paradigm of how to interpret information like this, because we know that no airplanes crashed on 9/11. We know that no one was harmed at Sandy Hook. We know no one was injured in the Boston Marathon bombing. So these are performed events. They are fictional, what you might call a hoax. And there's some indications or hints that the King event is another one of these. I'll share some of these ideas with you. The involvement of Mark Lane. Mark Lane involved with JFK. JFK, another event that we know, is filled only with deception, half-truths. An event widely understood to be a faked event. There is general silence and apathy surrounding this killing and the civil trial. I went to Los Angeles to see a civil rights leader speak. He worked with King. He was active, I'm not going to say his name, but he had been a longtime activist in discussing the death of Martin Luther King. In this public appearance, he did not give mention of it at all. And I found that very curious. An audience eager to hear him, an all-black audience except me and my girlfriend. Very interesting, the silence. Notable silence from Jesse Jackson. Notable silence from a lot of the black community. From the King family. You see pictures of Coretta Scott with elected officials. Now, how is this possible? Knowing the quote that I read in the beginning of this video. Nothing has been done. Nothing at all. In my own experience, again, I don't want to call anybody out necessarily, but I called a group, a local group, and which honor Martin Luther King every year for Martin Luther King Day. And I asked, are you aware of this civil trial and the findings therein? The answer back, no. Would you like to know any more? The answer back was no. This is beyond curious to me. I know it's shocking, it's difficult, but even in mainstream history here, this is documented quite well. What is going on here? The involvement of Judge Joe Brown, a reality TV show judge, later on, was also involved in this case. So we know that assassinations are faked. Yitzhak Rabin, the attempt on Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, and the Ambassador Hotel. Those are separate objects, or separate subjects. But one that may be closer to this is the killing of Fred Hampton, black activist. If you want to see how patently obvious it is that Fred Hampton's killing by the FBI and police, how phony it is, watch the documentary. I believe it's called The Assassination of Fred Hampton, or The Killing of Fred Hampton. I'll try to link it below. Simply watch it. And I believe it's patently obvious for you. So we know this occurs. There may be a pattern here. So the Raoul's connections to JFK, Ruby, and H.L. Hunt is actually an indication that this is a hoaxed event. The funeral photos of Coretta Scott. Again, hey, everybody grieves differently, but I'll allow you to look at those pictures of her at the funeral. The appearance of King in the casket. He allegedly was shot through the jaw. It traveled through his neck, through his jaw here, ending into his back. I don't know. You be the judge. You can see a photo of a man, an employee of the Lorraine perhaps, mopping up the blood on the balcony. Is that true? Would that be the case? Is this what would happen? I don't know. To me, it had an echo of the faked event in Isla Vista, the shooting of Elliot Rogers' shooting in Isla Vista, where the next day the employees of the Ivy Deli Mart are mopping up blood and gore themselves. All right. Little or no blood is seen on King. He has a white napkin or handkerchief over his face, and you would imagine there would be a large amount of blood. There's difficult to see, perhaps, but no indication of that. Also, in more complex, and I'll link an article about this subject, but William Pepper's association with the Ramparts magazine is an indication that this is all a fiction. Also, the deployment of who was surveilling, like I said, it was the PSYOPs division, psychological operations. Now, Pepper writes in the book, page 127, that this group is used for, quote, sensitive and technical photographic surveillance and reports. My guess is that there would be a number of people within intelligence and military groups that would be able to take pictures. Interestingly enough, they were from the psychological operations. You can read the psychological operations manuals online. Some of them, I bought one years ago through Amazon. I invite you to read those. What do they do? The shaping of culture. Yeah, it's a separate thing. So we're kind of left here with a challenge, or an option perhaps. You have the official narrative, James Earl Ray. I hope at the end of all this, you'd at least say, that's questionable. I really want to look into what the civil trial is about, read some books, determine why do people say that there was a conspiracy of government and military involved in that. So perhaps that's an option bubbling for you now. There was a conspiracy. Whew. I'm going to put forward that the most likely option is that it was a fictional event. Martin Luther King participated in the faking of his own death. He retired. It's like the James Bond movie You Only Live Twice. I think that's the name of it. Where in the beginning of the movie he fakes his death, they have a funeral, he goes on. That's tough, isn't it? That's a rock in a hard place of there's a government conspiracy to do this, the government is nefarious, it's a hoax. The person I had once looked up to, for whatever reason, whether he was blackmailed into participating in this or whatever, faked his own death. What are we to do with all this? Well, I think if you stay in this conspiracy mode, which they, believe me, it's the preferred option of people in power for researchers or people who are interested in history to become stuck in a cul-de-sac of conspiracy stuff. There's a whole conspiracy culture, a lot of literature, movies, all this interest. And what it does, I have come to find out, is it keeps you in a cul-de-sac. And there's some effects that occur there. This is what happened to me, briefly. It holds you in the past. You're stuck. 1968, 1963. They become so important. Dallas, 1963, Memphis. You become locked in the minutia, wanting to know every detail possible. Who was there? Where were they standing? Looking at all the photographs. This is always incrementally updated. New book, new movie, new article, new witness, new findings. Oh, it's interesting. A new documentary's coming out to keep holding you there. It's titillating. It's a mystery that's never solved. Oh, round and round we go. It props up the martyr savior to an even higher pedestal. So Martin Luther King, if you hold the official narrative, you're thinking he was an awesome dude. He was gunned down too early. What a tragedy. Wait a minute. No, the government took him out because he was talking about Vietnam. He was calling America the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Oh, man. And the FBI took him out. Military intelligence took him out. His status goes up even more in the martyr savior. More esteem is added to him. It gives you a boogeyman government. Oh, nefarious. These guys are evil, man. They will kill you if you talk out. Oh, there's a new boogeyman in town. It might not be the white racists anymore. Now it's the racist, murderous government who can't be stopped. It props up other myths. We can see how this props up the Vietnam idea. That's a separate subject, so I won't go into that necessarily now. But we know now the Gulf of Tonkin was phony. It was the incendiary event kicking off the police action of Vietnam. We know it was a false flag operation. How you interpret Vietnam becomes different when you know about Gulf of Tonkin. How you interpret the critics of Vietnam is different if they don't talk about that. So when you leave the cul-de-sac, when you begin saying, this is this is incongruous. This is illogical. Things are not matching. Like all the hints towards a hoax that I mentioned before, you then pop out and say, oh yeah, none of this really makes sense. Why is there so much silence, apathy, and ignorance surrounding this? Oh, come out. What are the effects of that? You live in the present. You focus on the details of today, my life, my family, what is truly occurring now. You become disinterested in all that minutia, all that grainy video footage, looking so closely. You begin shrugging at reports of this stuff. Yeah? They lied to me about 9/11. History's pretty much lost to us. I don't know. You can research it for fun, find ways to debunk it. You dethrone these heroes from the past, these martyr saviors, and you yourself begin saying, I'm going to become that. Rather than looking at what King did in his writings, you can take whatever good that you want, you can glean from there, but you dethrone those idols and you become the best activist that you can be, the best pacifist that you can be. The boogeyman of the government goes away. They're all just play acting. They're putting on a nice spiel. It's a lovely little show. It will entertain you throughout history. They're not murderous. Lying, deceiving. They're putting on a show. They're not telling you that you have to believe it. No more boogeymen. No more boogeymen. Not living in a vibration of fear. So, rather than propping up all these other myths, you begin the domino effect of, oh, this is phony. What are the implications and consequences? History professors aren't talking about this. Media professors, communications professors aren't talking about this. What other myths can we unravel here? So rather than the wasting your time, when you're in the cul-de-sac, you're going to waste your time saying, oh, please open up a new panel, a new congressional panel, new House Select Committee on Assassinations panel. Can we have a Truth and Justice, a Truth and Reconciliation Committee or commission? Cap in hand. Oh, will you please investigate the murder of Martin Luther King? When you know now that the government is only there to deceive and mislead, you walk away and you say, I'm not going to bother with an FOI, a Freedom of Information request. I'm not going to bother with another trial, another investigation. I've done it. I know. I don't need to involve a bunch of jokesters. I've gone on really long. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that my intention is not for people to walk away disheartened. Information like this takes a long time to digest. For me, it took many years, and it was very, very difficult. And so for you, you can steep on it, read on it. Don't take my word for it. I'm not gospel truth. I'm a human being just like anyone else. I'm not here to, convince anybody of anything. Just sharing what I have found. And what the cat's telling me it's time to go, I guess. So I would want you to feel heartened. Your values as a pacifist are awesome and correct. If you love Martin Luther King and have loved his work in your life, that's because you're a good person and you care about people. I'm only suggesting continue. keep learning about his life. Keep learning about the trial, perhaps, and see where your journey takes you. It's awesome. It's been very fulfilling to me. I find it joyful. It's exciting. I love it. And so I appreciate you sticking around with me for 40 minutes. It's been a wild ride. Thank you very much. Your comments, corrections, criticisms are always appreciated. Uh, I feel like there's so much work that we can do as caring people, together. And, that conversation can start in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it starts with saying, you're completely wrong. I'm okay with that. It's okay. So have a great day. Keep rocking. Keep on rocking in a free world, as someone once said. Big wheels keep on turning. There's another one in there. Love, love, love. All you need is love. You insert your favorite song lyric there. And take care. Have a great day.